Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Here, I will present our listening project. And firstly, I will introduce our member group, that is Novita Indah Purwaningsih and Jeni Mika Amelia. In the TOEFL listening test, there are two different audio conversations. The first is short dialogues and long conversation. The first is short dialogues. There are 17 skills in this listening section, and here I will give the strategies to answer that question. The first is skill 1, that is focus on the last line. The short dialogue involves conversation between two people, each followed by a question. It is important to understand that the answer to this type of question is most often found in the last line of the conversation. The strategies, that is, first, the last line of the dialogue probably contains the answer to the question, and listen to the first line on the dialogue. If you understand it, that's good. If you don't understand it, don't worry because it probably doesn't contain the answer. And the last is, be ready to focus on the last line of the dialogue, because it probably contains the answer. Repeat the last line in your mind as you read through the answer in the text. Skill 2. Choose answer with synonyms. As you listen to the last line of the dialogue, focus on the keyword in the line. And if you see any synonym for keyword in a particular answer, then you have probably found the correct answer. Skill 3. Avoid similar sound. Identify keyword in the last line of the dialogue and identify words in the answers that contain similar words, and don't choose this answer. Next is skill 4, that is draw a conclusion about who, what, and where. It is common for you to be asked to draw one of the following conclusions in the short dialogue. First, who is probably talking, and what will she or he probably do next, and last is where does the dialogue probably take place. Skill 5. Listen on who on what in passive. The first, if the dialogue contains a passive statement, the answer to the question is often an active statement. And if the dialogue contains an active statement, the answer to the question is often a passive statement. Note: check carefully who or what is doing the action in this question. Skill 6. Listen for what and who with multiple nouns. When there are multiple nouns in a sentence, it's common for the answers to confuse which noun does what. Next, skill 7. Listen for negative expression. The most common kind of correct response to a negative statement is a positive statement containing a word with an opposite meaning. The common expression that used in regular negative, nor or not, other negatives, nobody or nothing, and negative prefix, un, dislike, unlike, dislike, and the other like that. And skill 8, listen for double negative expression. The situation where double negative can occur, negative word not or nor, and negative prefix un, dis, and for this case, the answer is a positive statement. And there are two negative verbs. For this case, the answer is an implied meaning. And there are neither or not either. And skill 9. Listen for a most negative expression. You can find some expressions like hardly, barely, scarcely. Only all of the expressions have mean almost none. and others expression like rarely and seldomly, it means that almost never. Skill 10. Listen for negatives with comparatives. You will find a sentence that use comparative, like use more or, and in the last root word there are AR. And in this case, the answer is the statement with the superlatives meaning. And skill 11. Listen for expression of agreement. Expressions of agreement are common in the short dialogues. You should become familiar with them. You will hear some expression like agreement for positive statement. So do I, me too, I'll say, isn't it? You can say that again. An agreement for negative statement. Neither do I don't either.
Okay, the next skill is skill 12. Listen of expression, uncertainty, and suggestion. Expressions of uncertainty and suggestion are common in short dialogues, so you should become familiar with them. The following example shows an expression of uncertainty. Uncertainty, the example is, isn't it? As far as I know, as far as I can tell. The suggestion, the example is, why not and let's. Skill 13. Listen for emphatic expressions or surprise. Emphatic expressions of surprise are common in short dialogues, so you should become familiar with them. When surprise is expressed, it implies that the speaker did not expect something to be true. The example of the expression is, then he is here. It means that I thought he was not here. Then you can go. It means that I thought you could not go. Next is listen for wishes. Conversations about wishes can appear in the short dialogues. The important idea to remember about wishes is that a wish implies that the opposite of the wish is true. The example of the expression is, I wish I had time to help. It means that he or she has no time to help. And then the second one is, I wish I did not have time to help. It means that he or she has time to help. The next skill is skill 15. Listen for untrue condition. Conversations containing conditions can appear in the short dialogues. The important idea to remember about conditions is that a condition implies that the opposite of the condition is true. The example of the expression is, if she were at home, it means that she were not at home. If she were not at home, she could do it. It means that she is at home. Skill 16. Listen for two and three part verbs. Two and three part verbs appear in some question in the short dialogues. These verbs are expressions that include a verb and one or more particles like such as in or at. The particle changes the meaning of the verb. For this case, you should know the verb phrase as many as you can. Next skill is listen for idioms. Idioms are spatial expression in a language that all speakers of the language know. These spatial expressions describe one situation in life but are applied to many different areas of life. You should read or know the idiomatic expression as many as you can if you want to succeed on this question type. Okay, the next is about long conversation. There are first skill 18, anticipate the topic. You should try to anticipate the topics you will be hearing. For example, For example, are the conversation about some aspect of school life or some type of social issue or a trip someone is planning, a helpful strategy is therefore to look briefly at the answers in the textbook before you actually hear the conversation on the recording and try to determine the topics of the conversation that you will hear. You can guess the topic from the following clues that the answers. Skill 19. Anticipate the questions. It is very helpful to your ability to answer individual question with the long conversations if you can anticipate what the question will be and listen specifically for the answers to those questions. For example, at the answers you will find the statement that is refers to a place like in the airport, in the library, or something like that. From that, you can infer that probably the question you will hearing is where does the conversation probably take place? Skill 20. Determine the topics. As you listen to each long conversation, you should be thinking about the topic or main idea for each conversation. Since the first one or two sentences generally give the topic, you should be asking yourself what the topic is while you hearing carefully to the first part of the conversation. Skill 21. Draw conclusion about who, what, when, and where. As you listen to each long conversation, you should be trying to set the situation in your mind. You should be thinking in the following thought, like, for the example is, who is talking? When does the conversation probably take place? Where does the conversation probably take place? What is the source of the conversation? Skill 22. The last skill is listen for answer in order. The best method for this type is of the question is you can listen the conversation and follow along with the answers while you listen. Because the detailed questions are answered in order, it is possible to read along while you listen to the conversation on the recording. Okay, that's all for our group. Thank you.